I'm walking around here today, and then I realized it's basically exactly 1 year since I caught my ex and the social workers, what you could say basically conspiring against me in a way that I could actually capture it on audio. And it's not so much to prove anything, but it was for me to actually hear. It's so beautiful around here. For me to hear and witness to what extent a person can go, even if it's, how she put it, out of fear. Okay, I would understand fear of me if I was the actual bully, wife beater, or whatnot. But now, since I've had enough of clarity, enough of time to finally start really recovering, I realized I was a safe person. I just failed myself with staying in a relationship for the sake of children, family, and also sort of my own values, which were mixed with kind of like a trauma identity that developed through relationships I've had with my parents, with my girlfriends and the first wife, and then now the second ex-wife. I know they say hurt people, right? Hurt other people, but it's not entirely true. I was hurt a lot, but that only taught me and reminded me of what I don't want to do to other people. It doesn't mean I haven't made mistakes. It doesn't mean I didn't drift off of my own path and my own principles in this respect, but it was so much more different because those decisions, whether right or wrong, were built on empathy, were built on the fact that I was dealing with another human who was in pain, more or less abandoned and alone, and I definitely cared. I couldn't just kick someone out on the street when I figured that they can't behave themselves, and it's not about what's acceptable for me and what's not. This is not measured by my personal standards, although it should have been. It was more measured by inconsistencies, contradictions, judgmental behavior, lack of rational emotional reactions, etc., etc. I think it's mainly because if we talk about red flags, and did I see the red flags? Did I miss them? And if I did see them, did I ignore them? Yeah, I ignored them, but not in a sense that I would say, oh, it's nothing, just gaslighting myself, like a lot of people do that. We will end up gaslighting ourselves. We're gonna say, no, but this person is good and all this stuff. Yes, true, I did that too, but not because I was blind or deluded, blindly in love, but because I really see sometimes the good in people that they cannot see themselves, and their potential. However, I've learned from that potential itself is not enough. Every person has to commit to their best abilities to be the better version of themselves, right? And there's no perfectionism here. It's just, if you feel inside of yourself what's good, what's bad, what's right and what's wrong for yourself, then clearly you have some sort of moral compass that you should be guided by. What I've learned from all this is that a lot of people have problems one way or another, whether it's financial problems, whether it's toxic family, whether it's superficial and broken relationships with people. A lot of us have that on our plate because we are, whether you like it or not, surrounded by a lot of people who are predatory, assholes, ignorant, and simply want to see the world burn. And it's not whether they're evil or bad people or... Nope. It's really just these kind of people who are so hurt. These are the hurt people who prefer to choose and prefer to hurt other people because they're hurt. But at the end of the day, we all have a choice. That was my lesson. I had choices. I didn't listen to myself. I tried to, I would say, control the outcome. Helping other people can be perceived as controlling by them. And to a certain extent, you must also be willing to admit which people actually want to be helped and which people are just there for the attention and whatever benefit they can get out of it. My weakness was being able to make tough decisions at work and in public place, but when it came to my private and intimate life, I was much more lenient, much more forgiving. But this is what we all do, or at least any emotionally mature person would do. You give people you care about more space, more opportunities to be themselves and also improve themselves. But when people consistently show you over and over again either that they cannot really align themselves with their actions, their words and their beliefs, which means being consistent, or that they cannot be honest, vulnerable and open, you should believe them. Don't try to change what they show you. Don't try to wait for them to change. Just believe them. From now on, I'll take an example. A recent friend of mine, new friend, we've really grown to be rather close and very open and trusting with each other in a very short time. And that was great because I didn't see any, other than obviously the guy helped me a lot financially, I didn't see any intention from him to, let's say, either screw me over or use me in any kind of sense. But having said that, we had one condition for this to work out long term, and which is full transparency. We all make mistakes. I made mine. This guy made his own mistakes in his life. And for some of those mistakes, they cost him more than they should. So he made himself a promise that whenever he steps off his new desired path, makes a wrong step, And he lets me know about it. So we can see together if there is a better way and a solution to that problem. And with having provided these kind of people my heart, my safety, my vulnerability, my openness, and they still end up forgetting to check up, check in, and then in the end I have to find from a completely different source that they are not being honest with me about themselves and their recent actions. And again, it's not about judging, and it's not about lecturing and teaching anyone any lessons. That's not my part anymore, not my role anymore. It's just the fact that if I am going to trust anyone again and ever again, I want people to know that the shitty, ugly, painful truth they're trying to hide is the key to my inner world and to actual access to the real me. And as far as everyone else is concerned, what they will end up seeing is merely a reflection, a mirror reflection of who they are. Because that's what most people are doing these days. They're merely projecting themselves, whether it's consciously or unconsciously, onto others. There's almost no space for people still really being authentic, really being themselves. And the simple action what I do these days, which comes from all these lessons I just spoke about. First time is a warning. Second time, you will be very lucky if you still hear from me at all, depending on what the discussion was about. But there are no more third warnings. There is no 3 chances. Anyone who really wants to talk about healing is not about doing something that makes your body feel relaxed, although that's part of it. Like, I don't know, yoga, massages, saunas, self-care basically. But real healing, it's not from achieving any states of joy, happiness, also nothing good about it, to be honest. I mean, there's loads of good about it, but the real healing happens when you sit with all of the crap that you have done in your life so long that you start to love every single bit of it. When you really are able to love every shit that you've done and every shit that happened to you, that's when healing starts. Because after that point, when you've finally done it and it feels ecstatic and exhilarating in the first few attempts, and when you finally see through, but the reality is, that's when it starts. And the real healing is a choice you make every day. Every day we can be faced with fear, warmongering, psychological abuse by politicians, psychological abuse and manipulation by the media, healthcare services, maybe even your therapist, who knows. The only way you're gonna free yourself is to be yourself. Unapologetically, but kindly, compassionately, beginning with yourself. It's not about pep talk and sweet talk. It's about the real talk. And I wish I was more real with myself when I should have been. People called me a hard ass. not the sensitive, too sensitive part, too emotional later when things already erupted. At the beginning, tough, hard ass, hard on myself. I should have stayed that way. And not in terms of being hard, pushing myself over. I did. That was the burnout. That was the overachiever. But having hard limits on my personal boundaries. If anyone tries me these days, like, I don't know, I'll give a good example. A bunch of brave policemen, beginning of this year, when I was again almost falsely accused by an attacker to be the aggressor. So a victim, the guy who attacked me got beaten up and then plays a victim role. Wannabe biker ganger on top of it all. Snitches get stitches, they say, right? Well, when the cops came and they did try to manhandle me and arrest me, that's when I finally, what some people would probably call, snapped. I didn't snap, but there was a justified rage. I simply had enough. And from that moment onwards, I've changed. I'm still the same me, the same old person as I've always been, the same spirit, but there has been a few upgrades in the meantime. So that's actual real compassion to oneself and to others. You can be some real badass. Doesn't mean anyone has to get hurt. But if they want to, by all means, let them make their choices. But you make your own. Protect yourself first. And then protect the ones you care about. At the end of the day, life is short. We all die. And there's a lot of pain and suffering throughout. What we make out of it is what makes life fucking beautiful. Peace.